Welcome to the Explainer. We're at this really interesting moment in AI where we're seeing this huge shift. It's not just about chatbots that talk to you anymore. We're moving to AI agents that actually do things for you. And that's the big leap we're unpacking today. All right, so what does this actually look like? Let's make it super clear. Imagine you need to file a travel expense. You ask a chatbot, and what do you get? It'll probably tell you, okay, here are the instructions for the expense form. Helpful, maybe, but you still have to do all the work. Now you give that same task to an AI agent. You don't get instructions back, you get a notification that the work is done. It's already read your receipt, logged into the system, filled everything out, and even submitted it for you. See the difference? One talks, the other acts. So this is the big idea, right? We have to stop thinking of these as just smart assistants. They're more like digital workers. They don't just chat, they're given a goal, and they can figure out the steps to get there all by themselves across a bunch of different apps and then just do it. Minimal human handholding required. Okay, so that's the concept, but let's get into the real world. Where are these digital workers actually making a difference today? We're going to look at a few examples, from finance to HR, and you'll see just how big the impact can be. Let's start with finance. Think about all that tedious, manual work, what some people call undifferentiated toil. The stuff that has to get done, but doesn't really require a ton of creativity, like matching up invoices with purchase orders and payment records. Hours and hours of a person's time. Well, an AI agent can just handle that. It can do it in minutes and honestly with way more accuracy. Or how about HR? Onboarding a new employee is a huge process with so many moving parts. An agent can be the conductor of that whole orchestra. It can talk to IT to get a laptop set up, ping the new hire with their benefits forms, get orientation on the calendar. It makes sure nothing falls through the cracks so that person has a great first day. And then there's the supply chain. This is where agents become a total game changer for staying resilient. They can keep an eye on inventory levels around the clock. And the cool part is, if something's running low, they don't just send you a panicked email. Now, they're proactive. They can automatically kick off the reordering process, and if there's a snag with the usual supplier, they can even start looking for backups. That's huge. So you hear all this and you might think, okay, a little bit of efficiency, but get this. The impact is staggering. We're not talking about a small improvement here. In finance, for example, some companies are seeing a 70 to 90% reduction in the time it takes to process an invoice. Let that sink in. That isn't just a small tweak. That's a complete transformation of a core business process. Okay, so when you see numbers like that, the next logical question is, how? How does one of these digital workers actually think? How does it decide what to do next? Well, it's not just magic, I promise. There's a really elegant, continuous loop happening behind the scenes. It basically all comes down to this 4-step cycle that just runs over and over. First, it perceives. It sees something happen. A new email lands, data in a spreadsheet changes, whatever. Second, it reasons. It thinks, okay, based on that new information, what's my goal now? Third, it plans. It maps out the exact steps it needs to take. And fourth, the most important part, it acts. It actually does the thing. And then the whole cycle starts right back up again. All right, let's zoom in on that last step, the act phase, because this is really where the rubber meets the road. This is how an agent goes from just thinking to actually doing. And it all comes down to one word, tools. So when we say tool in the world of AI agents, what do we mean? It's really anything that lets the agent interact with the outside world. It could be using an API to talk to another piece of software, or running a query on a database, or even just opening a file on your computer. Think of tools as the agent's hands. It's how it actually manipulates the digital world. So, just like a great craftsperson, an agent is only as good as its toolkit. It figures out what it needs to accomplish, and then it intelligently picks the right tool for that specific job. So, for instance, if its goal is to update a customer's info, it knows to grab its CRM tool to do that. The more tools you give it, the more powerful and versatile it becomes. It's that simple. Okay, this all sounds incredibly powerful, right? So the next question is, how do you actually build one of these things? The whole space is moving super fast, but right now we're seeing 2 main paths emerge for building agents. So you've got 2 broad approaches. The first one is really code-heavy, for developers. Think of tools like Claude Code. These are for engineers who want to automate really complex coding and software development tasks. Then you have the other path, which is much more visual. Platforms like NN are built for this. They let you build automations by visually connecting all the different business apps you use. We're talking over 400 of them.
It's more of a drag-and-drop approach, which means it's not just for hardcore developers. Operations folks and other teams can jump in too.
So the momentum here is just undeniable. The potential is absolutely massive. But, and you knew there was a but, like any new technology this powerful, there are some pretty significant hurdles to clear before this becomes mainstream.
And when I say momentum, I mean it. Check out this forecast from Gartner. They're predicting that by the end of 2026, that's not far away, 40% of all enterprise apps will have AI agents built in. That's up from less than 5% today. We're talking about an insane jump. This isn't some niche experimental tech anymore. It's on a path to be a fundamental part of how business software works. But about those hurdles, there are three big ones we need to solve. First, reliability. If you have a task with 10 steps and the agent has a tiny 1% chance of messing up each step, well, those errors can stack up and the whole thing can fail. Second, there's cost. Every time that agent has to think or reason, it's often making an expensive call to a big AI model. That can add up fast. And finally, security. I mean, you're giving an autonomous program the keys to your important systems. You have to be incredibly careful about managing that risk. And that brings us to the most important point of all, really. The goal of agentic AI isn't to automate jobs, it's to automate tasks. It's about getting rid of the repetitive, the boring, the toil. So as these digital workers start to take that stuff off our plates, it leaves us with a really fascinating question, a very human question. What are we going to do with all that time and mental energy we get back? What will we create with the skills that are uniquely ours?